somebody can close the door. Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for joining us here this afternoon. We appreciate your time. I'm Małgorzata Bonikowska, President of Center for International Relations from Warsaw. It's a think tank specializing in foreign affairs, quite a long time in the market, 18 years old think tank, which is for Poland quite a long time. We are independent, we work under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but we are not a governmental think tank, we are a foundation. And the topic we have to discuss today, we can say is one of the most important issues Europe discusses today, which is a migration crisis. I must say I'm really happy that the center deals with it. It has been at least 10 years. We are doing research, different projects in this field. We did several publications, several conferences on this issue. And that is why I start to invite the speakers from my colleague from the Center for International Relations, an expert in this field, and we can even say one of really the most important experts in the migration sector, let's say, or issue or field in Poland, Professor Krystyna Iglicka. Please join us. And I am very honored and happy that we can discuss this issue today with our guests from abroad. We have 3 people from 3 different countries, so the perspective will be much larger than the Polish one, I hope. So let me invite them as well. Irena Krasnicka, Czech Republic, Special Envoy for Migration and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Please join us. Thank you for being with us and taking invitation. Yosef Kuperwasser, Israel, Vice Director General in the Ministry of Strategic Affairs. Thank you, sir. And Franz Wolf, Austria, Director of the Austrian Integration Fund in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And my question to you, as is the last session, and maybe you will feel a little bit tired just by listening, so please join us. Let's do it in a little bit informal way. If you have any comments or questions, just raise your hand, and we will try to combine your experience and our speakers' experience in this field. First question from my side to all of us, and first I will start. My special attention will be on science, on researchers, on the data, evidence-based policy. So, Krystyna, I start with you. I would like to ask you, what has really happened in Europe? Migration happened always. History of mankind is full of migrations and migrants. But how can you explain this, what Europe is really facing now?
Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to be here. And in answer your question, Małgorzata, shortly, no one knows what happened really. Definitely. Definitely the mass migration of the year 2015 demands deeper analysis. Neither economic considerations, nor compassion, nor even the 1951 Geneva Convention offer us sufficient analysis of the phenomenon that just recently happened. But it happened, and we have to deal with this and find some kind of solutions. So, as a first speaker and as an economist, from the economic point of view, I think that it would be good to consider at the very beginning both consequences and causes of migration generally, and we should analyze them from the perspective of both sending and receiving regions, obviously. Since I am representing Poland, a country which has been experiencing since the year 2004 a mass emigration, it would be, I think that we can serve very well as a sending region to describe some consequences of migration for non-EU countries as well, for countries from North Africa and Middle East, because this is what may happen to these countries in the future.
Okay. Consequences I would like to discuss later. Is it working, my microphone? Yes, great. Let's stop here for a moment and let's try to first really explain it. And the question is the same to all of you, being practitioners in the field, because each one of you deals with this on an everyday basis. Is there any theory behind it? Many theories, of course, and we know it, but from your point of view, which one would you share? What has really happened?
Well, first of all, I would like to come to your point which you made at the beginning, that migration, when we speak about migration lately, we confuse it with irregular migration wave, which is not handled properly, and so on and so on, what is happening now in Europe. But if we speak about migration, we shouldn't say migration is good and bad. Migration is natural. It is something what goes hand in hand with globalization. And we could have understood, and after the fall after the end of Cold War, and you are economists, you know that only afterwards we came to the exchange of goods and the globalization which we had a long time before. And the migration is the economic migration mostly. It's a natural thing which happens, and it's like water. It is here, we can use it in a good way. It is natural, but we can also have floods. So this is migration as such, when we speak about migration. And now, I don't know, I believe that we are speaking why it happened now. Again, the problem is not that the people are coming in general, but the dynamics is a problem, because we don't know how many will come. We know where is the potential, and also the way they come. That is very important, and we are here, we speak about security. So the problem is that they come in irregular way, that we don't know, as very well but it was said by the Macedonian Minister of Foreign Affairs, that we don't know, of Defense, that we don't know who comes. So this is important. This is the problem, not the fact that there is migration. And we could have observed that there have been the organized crime who change their goods from narcotics to people because it's more profitable. And we have been observing it, or our special services and so on, observing it during tens of years, maybe, lately, several years at least. And we haven't done anything. So these are several things, of course, with the instability in our neighborhood.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for holding this debate and raising this question. I think it's extremely important to understand what's going on. And I think that we have to distinguish between two kinds of migrations that are happening simultaneously. There is the migration that happens because of social and economic differences that, of course, and also demographic differences, the low rate of birth in Europe that calls for people from areas where they have a larger rate of birth to come here. And this is something that's happening all the time. And the changes because of the differences, the changes in economics and social conditions. But there is something that's happening right now, and this is different. There's the big wave of immigrants that are coming right now are not people that planned to leave because economic conditions. They were forced to leave. And the reason they were forced to leave, and it's unpleasant to say it, they are suffering an existential war inside Islam in the Middle East between a group that is basically pragmatic and that wants to see some sort of better relations with the West, and that are ready to adjust their culture to be more closer to Western culture, and a group of people who are radicals, who want to see Islam ruling according to Sharia, and that show no tolerance to the pragmatists. And until recently, there was a feeling in the Middle East that eventually something is going to happen, some miracle is going to happen, and somehow the hands of the pragmatists is going to be upper. West will intervene. There were all kinds of points along the way where they thought it's now going to happen. There were all kinds of promises given along the road that, yes, the United States is going to train the rebels and the opposition in Syria and so on and so forth, or take action against Assad with the red lines and things like that. There was always some hope in the horizon. What happened recently is that with the deal with Iran, this hope was lost. And when the Russians came in following this deal, everybody understood there's no point in keeping waiting. Nothing is going to happen. The only way that we shall survive as pragmatists is by leaving the Middle East, not by living in the Middle East. And that's what brought about this sudden wave of hundreds of thousands of people who decided that there's no future for them in the Middle East. And now you have to ask yourself what you do about it. Discuss this separately, but this is a situation. They have seen no future for them in the Middle East. So that's why they come to Europe.
Thank you. Last but not least, how do you see the situation in Austria, which has a little bit longer experience with this issue, also earlier?
Thank you for the invitation. I would like to underline that if we speak about immigration or about migrants, then we speak about totally different people. For example, in Austria, last year 170,000 people came to Austria, migrated to Austria. 70% of them are from the European Union, from Germany and from Eastern European countries. A second group, a very small group though, is the high qualified migration from third countries. We ask for them, we try to get them into Austria. Unfortunately, it's just a very small group. And then there's the big group, sure, about the refugee migration. But now is everything is discussed about the refugee migration, and the more important point for us over the last couple of years or tenths of years was always the migration in an aging society which secures our welfare system and which secures our labor market. And I think this is very important to say that, for example, Austria is a very diverse country. In 1960, 50 years ago, 1.5% of the people had a migrant background. Now it's 20% of the people. In Vienna, it's 40% of the people have a migrant background. That means they themselves or their parents are not born in Austria. So it's a very diverse country, or Vienna city. And this diversity could be a value, or is a value itself, if you have common understanding and if you have common norms and common values. The situation now, sure, this year a lot is broken and everything is different because there are so many refugees now. But this is an European problem. Maybe in fact it's not, because it's this situation or the problem of some countries of the European Union now. And for Austria it is, for example, this year 100,000 refugees will come to Austria to ask for asylum. Several 100,000 of people come to Austria and move on to the north somewhere. In these moments, thousands of people are waiting at the Slovenian border to Austria to come to Austria. Thousands of people are waiting to get somewhere into the north, and several thousands of people are also waiting at the border to Germany to go further. We don't know how the fact is that we don't know how to handle that, because winter is coming. We have big tents, heated tents to have accommodation for these people. It's too many people now, too many people in too short period of time. So the point is for us now in this situation, it's European solidarity. But I want to say first is there are different, very different groups of migration, and we have to have a different view on all these groups.
Yes, so basically after what you've said, it may be even more pessimistic vision of what we are having in Europe. And basing on what you said, what can be now the scenario? What could be the scenarios of the events if Europe is not really able to maybe handle it well? We've just heard Donald Tusk, the President of the European Council, and Jean-Claude Juncker proposed G20 to be engaged, meaning the richest countries, positioning this crisis as a global crisis. So we started from country approach, we reached community approach, but it's not effective, and now we are facing a global challenge. What could be the scenario? What will happen in your opinion? Krystyna. Unfortunately, we have just one microphone.
Very difficult question. Definitely, we know that Europe as a common creature is not prepared to manage this issue. I do not agree that immigration is a good solution for some problems. For example, labor shortages or demographic shortages. This is it used to be a solution. And it was treated as a solution by some European countries. However, plenty of mistakes were done with integration. And therefore, and this is why immigration as a solution for shortages on labor market or in demographics stopped working. However, people in distant areas still hear that they are very welcome and that they may go to reach areas. And this is a confusion for them. It is also a confusion for our region, Central and Eastern European region, who suddenly, as we heard, has to get this hot potato and welcome people from different culture. While our societies, firstly, are not prepared, are very poor, and we are still experiencing a massive immigration. So for such countries as Poland or other countries in our region, it is much better to discuss possibilities of return migration, of return our skills, or possibilities to improve welfare system or family policies that instead repeat the mistakes which were done by Western European countries and attract, or not attract, it is imposed of us at the moment, different culture and different attitudes toward our values.
So
Okay.
well, let me be more concrete in my question, maybe at first at the political level. The scenarios, could you tell us your vision of what will happen is rather positive, that it can bring the Europe more together and help integrate around another common problem, or it will be an opposite effect? It will bring us to disintegration, to more discrepancies, more discussions, and at the very end, no common position will be taken.
Well, I'm not, of course, somebody who could tell you the future or fortune teller. I'm just a crazy optimist myself. I mean, I'm not also a politician who could really do the changes. But I believe that we will have to find a solution. I mean, it's inevitable. And we have always found solution in the European Union, better or worse, but we have always found some solution. We are also not very happy with the solution proposed, not with all the parts of it. I mean, I think that some of them, in principle, it is good. We should address the root causes. We should start in the regions of both instability or in the countries where the migration, especially irregular migration origins, we should promote the legal migration routes. I completely agree. We should also, and this is very important, we should address the organized crime. We should put it out of the business. Then we will see some positive changes also on the way the people come and how they are treated, how they are misled, and so on. So this is very important. And we should, inside Europe, we should discuss common solutions, burden sharing, or I wouldn't speak about burden, because from the point of view of human rights, I'm still a bit, one part of myself is still a bit, before in the times of totalitarian regime, I still feel something for human rights. So that is one part of our criticism of the quota system, is not only what my colleague have said, but to me, I have another problem with this. I have the problem that this solution, it's not about getting people to our country. We will get them, and we are getting them, and it will be okay. We are able to integrate them in some numbers, in much higher numbers than we would think. But the problem is the technical solution, which is unviable, we think. Because we, for example, started, and nobody speaks about it, but we started natural relocation program, I would say. If the people are passing through our country irregularly, and they want to go to I don't know where, but they applied for asylum in Greece, Italy, or Hungary, or they haven't even applied somewhere else, we ask them, apply in our country. We'll proceed your application. So this is precisely the core of relocation. They don't want, it's another story, but we offer it. So this is a kind of natural thing. So I think that we have to be solidary, no doubt. But we should start from the other way round, from regularization of the migration flows.
Mm-hmm. And in this way, we are going a little bit into the solutions direction. But before we give the solutions, still I would repeat the question of the possible scenarios, because when you say we should, I understand you believe that we will do that. But not everybody really believes, and there are many opinions who say, okay, Europe is just showing that we are not able to handle that, right? At the same time, some couples of months ago, Donald Tusk said we are not able to handle our border in Europe anymore. So from Israel perspective, how do you see the situation within Europe now? Is it bringing us to more integration in a way? And finally, maybe at the very end, we'll have a European common migration policy? Or you see that it's more discrepancies between the EU member states, and it will bring us to maybe a frozen European Union, which will not continue to integrate more?
I would say that, again, coming back to what I said before, there's a big difference between the question of migration policy and what you do about the situation in the Middle East. The migration policy has to do with the regular movement of people from one place to another. So you have to have a migration policy that deals with that. What's happening in the Middle East is something much bigger.
Exactly, and this will not end soon. From your analysis,
not only does
results
it not end soon, the attitude of the West in general, it's not only Europe. The attitude of the West is actually allowing the radicals to take over the Middle East, be it the Shiite radicals or the Sunni radicals. And letting this happen is bad from an Israeli point of view. We are there and we are worried about that. And it's bad for Europe because many people, many Muslims would not like to live under the radicals, and they would move. And they would not wait for a migration policy. They would just take their little belongings and start moving.
So what is your scenario for Europe?
And in my mind, what we're going to see is radicalization. It's radicalization in the Middle East and an impact of this radicalization on the Muslims that are moving to Europe. Because if the Muslims are really, the radicals, are those who have the upper hand, then people would like to be with the winners and not with the losers. And you'll see it being translated into greater ability of all kinds of agitators to, and there's going to be frustration here because all these expectations of being absorbed in the new society are not going to be met. And this frustration is going to be used by the radical agitators in order to gain the hearts and the minds of the people that are coming. And maybe not everybody, but enough in order to cause all kinds of things that we already see in Israel and in the Middle East in general, of violence. So I would like to be an optimist. But unfortunately, I think that we should be realists. And in reality, what's happening in the Middle East and what is being brought into Europe is a big problem that is not taken care of. So if you ask me about solutions, I say that if the West is not going to be ready to do something about the core of the problem, which is the war inside the Muslims in the Middle East, between those pragmatists and the radicals, and would be outsourcing this activity to the Russians or to the Iranians, the outcome is going to be dangerous for the West and for the world order that the West stands for the human rights that the West stands for. All of these things are going to be under threat, and we should be worried about our unreadiness to pay a price in order to have a different Middle East, because the price we shall pay will be in Europe.
That's what you are discussing and presenting. It's, of course, there are reasons for massive migrations and the crisis we are having, but it's maybe not also the only aspect. The specialists, the experts, the analysis give us also some other reasons, which may, in the future, nearest future, bring us even more people. For example, from Africa, when there is a lack of water, or will be very soon a huge lack of water. So all this put together brings us to the conclusion that these migrations will continue in a massive scale. So that brings me to Austrian experience. Let's go on the people's level. In the previous panel, we were discussing more country-to-country level and more security aspect. Let's think a little bit of the people's reaction. You are in Austria, the country which handles this directly. How can this be, let's say, improved? How people react and what can be done to be able to handle this problem on the people's level, on social level, let's say in a better way?
It's a better question because I can't say anything to the Middle East or how it's going on there. I think a very important question is which countries are for which reason, for which migrants attractive for. And sure, there's a big difference between Poland, Austria, Sweden, Croatia, very different reasons. That's the first point. The second thing is that I ask myself how long is it possible that Germany can move on with this kind of position now. If you look back just a few weeks or months, stopping Dublin, pictures, welcoming pictures and things like that, how long is it possible that we could move on like that? Things are changing very fast with that. And we realize in Austria that we're talking now about the fences within the Schengen, not even within the European Union, within the Schengen zone to Slovenia. So it's a lot about social cohesion now. The problem in Austria is also because of the big number of people, and 100,000 people means is 1% of the whole population in Austria. The labor market is not that good at the moment, and on the other hand, there's a good welfare state in Austria, and if we have a lot of people who get asylum in Austria and the same rights like the Austrians, then we have a big debate on the social cohesion side. People who get money for not working and people who are working do not get much more money. So you have a basic income of up to 700 euro, so-called Mindestsicherung in Austria. And if you're not able to find a job, and that will be in Austria the big problem now.
There are some, yes, we have a question. I just want to mention one thing, that there are some people who say, of course, that migration crisis can bring big changes in European politics as well. First, Chancellor Merkel, whose position is now weaker in Germany than earlier. Let's see. Please, introduce yourself, please, and the mic is there, yes.
Yeah, my name is Lou. Yeah, my name is Louis Mourier. I'm a student from Warsaw School of Economics, and I'm making an Erasmus semester here in Poland. Usually I come from, basically I come from Germany, and I have one question to the two women here, two ladies. You talked about human rights and values and European values, and since I'm here staying in the summit here, there was a lot of talkings about European values and what European values mean. And my chancellor is criticized for standing for the most basic European value, mainly helping people when they're in need, and when they were refugees coming from war, we should help them. In my school, I learned in school that the best thing is to help people when they're in war, and this is one of the basic European values. And my question is, Isn't there a possibility of a scenario that the EU ends is going to collapse if the Eastern countries are not willing to take their responsibility and take the solidarity towards their Western partners, especially Austria, Slovenia, Serbia, Germany, and Sweden? Because in my mind, this is going to happen if we are not able in the European Union to share the costs of this big problem, but also the big chance for the European Union, but only say that it's your responsibility, it's not our fact. And Mr. Orban, the president of Hungary, said it's not a European problem, it's not even a Hungarian problem, it's a German problem.
Thank you. Who is going to answer?
Thank you. I may start. I do not agree with you. I think that a so-called migration crisis or multicultural crisis has been observed in Europe for years. However, until recently, until this biggest, I may say, immigration flow has been initiated, we or Western European societies did not talk about it, and now we can come back to the values and try to answer the question why Europe has not been prepared for migration and discuss it in a much broader context. And I listed here, in fact, I'm repeating a 2008 report by the Commission's expert group on violent radicalization. So it is not my words only, but I do agree with them. Why Europe has not been prepared for immigrants generally. Firstly, because of the lack of proper integration policies. Multiculturalism meant obey the law and pay your taxes, and that's it. However, community, each national, each society, and EU as well, is built on much broader foundation, customs, traditions, so on and so forth. Generally, integration in my opinion, involves three stages: reception, integration, and assimilation. However, assimilation was rejected by Western elites, and that's why it caused some alien societies, alien cultures, and radicalization among youth from different cultures in Europe as well. So why this happened? Because Europe did not have, and Western European countries did not have proper integration policies. Secondly, foreign policy is a region. I do agree with you. And finally, and perhaps it would be good to talk about it, experts list third arguments why Europe cannot deal with properly with immigrants from different countries, and surprisingly, it's our values. It's freedom to operate, and if I may, I will to freedom to operate and freedom to speak. And if I may, I will read very briefly something to you. Current events surrounding the Muslim Brotherhood illustrate the different approaches to radical Islam in the countries of their origin and in Western Europe. For example, while Egypt bans Islamist groups, Western free speech law makes it impossible to do the same. The fear of racism and being perceived as racist, alongside the West's deep-rooted belief in freedom of speech, has allowed Islamic societies to invite radical speakers to the events with impunity. Also, in this report, experts list three, I may say, institutions or sources for radicalization of opinion on both sides, from us, from our in our societies, and from foreigners. Firstly, these are universities, and here we have a very good example of Cameron Prevent plan. Secondly, mosques, and thirdly, prisons, which is quite natural.
Take this one.
Just I wanted to continue what you have said, because you are the very first speaker who are mentioning Islam. And Islam is a very important phenomenon for the integration of those who are coming to Europe. Paradoxically, in my country, those who are officially registered as a Muslim community, they are maybe 7,000 altogether. That's nothing in my country. And if you ask the Czechs what is most dangerous for the Czech society, the answer is Islam. So tell me your opinion, because this is a paradox of the real life, political life in Europe. So your comments, so if and to what extent Islam is playing important role in this respect, I mean the integration of those who are coming to Europe.
So what should we do, please?
Well, I will try to answer first the I don't know if it was question. It was a quintessence of blame game which is being played in Europe, what you have said. I thank you very much for it, for your statement concerning the non-solidarity of Eastern Europe. In this several sentences, or a long sentence, there is a core of the problems which we face and will face if we will not stop this blame game. Because this is very easy to blame somebody that he or she is not solidary because they don't want to show solidarity the way we want them to show solidarity. If you have problem in a family, then every member of the family tries to help their way. You will not ask somebody who is poor in the family to pay for the bill. But they might do some work, or they have some other knowledge they might use. Or they will have, sometimes will jump immediately because they can. Someone will take a longer time to do so. So, and you will not blame, you will not start as a solution of the problem, which is complex, from the very end of the problem. You will first try, when it's raining, you will first try to repair the roof, and not blame game who has the bigger bucket. So this is one thing which I would stop the blame game and let's speak about solutions. As I told you before, we are practicing the relocation. We are offering the asylum to everybody who is coming to us irregularly. We do. Both the people who already applied for asylum. That is, I explained it. So, of course, maybe the rhetorics is not good. I'm not happy with the discourse in our country. I'm not happy with it. I say it in open as a citizen. I can't speak for my government because I'm a government official, but I'm not very happy as a citizen with the possible radicalization and even with the, and I now answer the second question and I will be finished, with the fact that people are afraid of something what they don't know more than what the problem they really face. They are afraid of Islam, which is unknown in our country. The people do not know anything. The Muslims in our country are totally integrated without any trouble, and the only people who are defending Muslims are Christians, Catholics, and other Christians who say that we have a secular society and the people have right to believe in anything they want once they are proper citizens. So this is, and you see Pegida is in those parts of Germany who do not have experience with immigration. You are German. Not in those places where they live with immigrants for a long time. We have immigration in our country. We have 4.5% of foreigners living in our country, what is an average in European Union. And most of them are Ukrainians, but a lot of them Vietnamese, which are not, and so on. So it is not that we are not able. We take a longer time, yes. We were not used to it. So we take a longer time, but it is natural. But this blame game is horrible. We shouldn't blame Germany for their policies. We should try to help Germany, because if Germany falls, we fall.
So looking for solutions together, not the solution is given first. Krystyna?
Looking for the solutions, very briefly, I think that firstly, more structural aid or assistance should be given to sending regions. We didn't discuss it yet. We are just discussing consequences of mass immigration. To answer your question, second question shortly, I'm not afraid of Islam. We accepted, as a country, Poland accepted plenty of refugees from Chechnya, and it was Poland's right to accept immigrants our state wanted. We just do not want to repeat the mistakes done by Western European countries. Especially with that this quota system is imposed on us. And looking from the human perspective, listen to those people who are saying Germany or we are coming back to Syria. Why we should accept people who do not want to live in this country? We have plenty of welfare problems. We have problems with immigration, we have problems with housing, and we also, you have to understand that Polish society in majority is against immigration. If your society is against immigration, definitely you have mixed society, so you have to manage different voters. We have voters, I may say, homogeneous, so we have to listen to them as well, especially that we have plenty of social problems.
But the perception of the society also changes with the time. That's also a Polish lesson. We've been through a long 25-year story of repairing our relations with Germany. And after 25 years now, the opinion polls like Germans and respect Germans as number one. Also because of the trade, also because of a very good, let's say, commerce relations. And the opposite happened with Russians. Exactly the opposite. So what I'm saying is the perception also may change. So it may need much more explanations, maybe education as well, maybe leadership in this difficult time. And my question would be to you, how do you see the political scene then after this crisis within the EU internal problems we have with radicalism in the same time, which is also a phenomenon of, let's say, last few years.
Well, first of all, I think it's an outsider listening to an internal European debate, which is very interesting. I must say we, in my mind, a little bit missed the point. When the refugees from the Middle East, this current wave of refugees, say Europe, they don't mean Poland. They don't mean Eastern Europe. They mean Western Europe. That's where they want to go. And so I understand this debate about solidarity, but they are also a player in this game, and they don't want to go to Eastern Europe. They have a dream, and you have to understand that for them, this entire issue of the engagement of the Muslim Middle East and Europe was never about Poland or the Czech Republic. It was about the relations between them and Eastern Europe, and later on with the United States. This is the issue. So that for them, this is the West. This is where they want to go. And the political issue, I think this raising of the issue of Islam here is going to play a game, to play an important role in the way things develop. Because there is a certain trend inside Islam. It's not all Muslims, not even the majority. But there is a certain trend in Islam that has aspirations to rule the world. And they frighten a lot of people around the world. And you cannot avoid their presence. They are present now mainly in the Middle East, but they are going to be more present in the West as well as time goes by. And eventually, in my mind, if you ask me, I'll say that this is going to bring eventually to some explosion. I don't know how exactly this explosion is going to look like, but we know, for example, about 9/11, how this looked like and what repercussions did that have. And eventually, this is inevitable, that this kind of huge demographic change would not bring something of that kind. And the repercussions of that politically are going to be, I don't want to say dangerous because it depends where you stand, but are going to be immense. And I think it's not far from happening. And you mentioned what's happening politically in Europe already now. If something like that happens, the repercussions are going to be much bigger. That's why when you come to speak about solutions, the solution is not solidarity in handling the problem here is important. Sticking to our values as Western people who care about human rights and are ready to help the needy is, of course, important. Everything is important. But adopting a policy that ignores the real core of the problem, the events in the Middle East, this is the real core of the problem. If you ignore that, you're not going to be able to really cope with the problem.
Yeah, but don't you think that's a little bit a vicious circle? Because more we talk about it, more pessimistic the situation look like, more people fear. So more negative approach they take, more media report about it, and media report mostly negative events. More people fear, more they vote for radical parties, more radical parties in the politics, more radical political solutions also. And some of these solutions say no more European integration in this form we have. So it's in a way a vicious circle. What can we do to stop this? We had a question here. Mr. Landsbergis? Yes. Sorry, the mic somewhere? We have a scarcity of mic in this session, unfortunately. The first row, please. And it will be the last one.
Yes, thank you very much. Just a few words. When I'm thinking and listening, considering what is going on, my view is that there is a lot of talks about secondary issues. And if there is question what we could suggest seeking for solution, maybe we should look at the roots that was mentioned, and use proper words about what is going on. That is mass expulsion of people, of civil people, until now. Some looking at those masses approaching Europe cannot avoid a fear, because there are so many young men, and they are entering without a weapon. But who knows if they will become unhappy of unfriendly Europe. So it is not a joke only, or effort to threaten, but a call for reality. The mass expulsion caused by killings, bombings, fear. Fear is equal to terror. Fear to lose quite everything, or totally everything, of what you did have, your family, your children, whose children can be taken by every Boko Haram or other insane groupings. So parents want to save them, and themselves, of course. And those expelled, plus those threatened yet at the site and looking what to do, or captured by mass psychosis. Mass psychosis, I suppose it is considered as well. When everybody is running away, why not me? How to stop it? The means should be indeed very resolute and very clear for everybody, especially also for those who are encouraging this psychosis. And those who maybe want to use this mass exodus into Europe as a bomb against Europe, to get Europe destroyed. We know who hate Europe and European Union. So this anti-European bomb of mass exodus is tickling and going on. To talk, what could be done? Maybe it is impossible, but in some logic, the decision should come to close the well. The well, how to close the well? By very strong and resolute steps, using the power of European Union. Not sending ambulances only. If needed, to send tanks and to stop terrorism, seriously. Not giving a roof for one terrorist against other terrorists. This situation, when Russia is involved, only helps to continue. To continue, and maybe, of course, to get Assad in power. If Assad is a source of instability and terror for all Sunni, not his own people, then he's a good guy. He works well to destroy Europe, and he should be kept on his position.
Mr. President Landsbergis,
Yes.
I think let's stop here before we all...
Yes, but there is one more point about the West.
We have last 5 minutes.
Yes.
So if you have just very briefly one question, the last one.
One word. Indifference of the West. Deep indifference, even before, even in Sarajevo, everywhere. It was such a genocides were allowed by not interference. And now it's very similar.
Thank you. Last brief questions and we are closing.
My name is Pekka Kiri. I'm working at the Ministry of Defense of Georgia. Do you think that phenomena of migration resulting from the bad governance and internal conflicts are avoidable if we develop security mechanisms in immigrant countries, like to provide financial support, schemes of development and packages of reforms in order to remain them in their states? For instance, Melilla border fence in Spain built to stop migrants from crossing their borders wasn't effective. In addition, there were speculative statements
long
that
question.
Moroccan police. I'm just finishing. In addition, there were speculative statements that Moroccan police paid by Spanish authorities in order to stop migrants. Moroccan police used their violence on migrants on the border zone in order to stop them. Do you think that these measures will serve Europe for the long-term perspective?
I think we need at least 10 minutes to read it carefully again. But basically, it's about financing, right? I would ask the speakers to answer this maybe and give a final recommendation. We don't have anybody from the EU level, but maybe we can think about the EU perception of this crisis and give some recommendation for these people what to do. Krystyna?
Start. Okay, so maybe just a few words to Islam, because I don't know how to avoid the migration flows. But in Austria, as I said, a country with 8 million people, they are still living something between 700,000 people up to 1 million Muslim people, which are related to Islam. So it's a huge number, and we have no real incidents. Sure, there are some single incidents, but in general, the social cohesion is quite good. And I think the most important thing is that Islam in Europe is a very unknown religion, and sure, there's all these wars are all about that. But the thing is that the Islam has to arrive in Europe. That means that we need European institutions also, or Austrian institutions for Islam. For example, in Austria, there's an own law for Islam. In Austria, there's in the schools, Muslim young people, they get education, Muslimic education, Islamic education by law. There are institutions which for education for imams and for teachers and things like that. And I think this is very important, that the religion can arrive in Europe, and then a new Europe. I don't want to say maybe a European Islam, but let's say that it's the possibility that a new European Islam can be born in Austria. I think this is or in Europe. This is a very important point, because the number of people, of Muslim people in Europe, will increase. I think there's no other option. I'm sure that it will increase. Maybe not in Poland, but in all Western European countries, it's fact that it will increase a lot.
Again, education seems a very powerful tool in this regard. Whoever wants to continue?
I'll say a word about it. First of all, I think that we should refrain from using the term Islam in general. There are two main streams inside Islam. There's pragmatic Islam, there's radical Islam. The problem is with radical Islam, not with pragmatic Islam. We in Israel, we have 20% of our population are Muslims. We have problems with some of them that belong to the radical part. We live relatively well with the rest, who are pragmatic and want to have a good life with us. That's the situation in Israel. So that and we have even basically a more problematic situation than here in Europe. And so we have to make this differentiation. But coming to the question of what you do about radical Islam, I have to second the opinions presented by our friend here and say, yes, there's a big problem, because we try to avoid facing the real problem, the root causes of the problem, and this is going to backfire on us. If we continue with this policy, it's going to backfire on us. And this policy that our Georgian friend mentioned by the Moroccans, so it's not going to be effective. It's a tip, very small effect on the big wave that is coming here, because they realize that don't have a future. This is the mass psyche psychotic situation. They realize you don't have a place over there. It's very easy to convince them. They see what's happening. They see how the ISIS cut the throat of those who do not follow their opinion. So why wait until your throat is going to be cut? And that's the opportunity that would continue to lead them here. And something has to be done about that beyond solidarity and all of those issues that are secondary steps, but not the core policy.
Thank you. Irene, who is more optimistic?
Yes, optimistic. Yeah, but I try to be realistic. But I want to say that I didn't come to that point, but Mr. President Landsbergis have just mentioned it. It's not only a question of real things which are happening. It's a question of psychology. The people, it's always said, they want to Germany, they want to Sweden because they want more money. It is not always true. They didn't want to go to Luxembourg because they didn't know anything about Luxembourg. Nobody told them that Luxembourg is fine. There is somebody to tell them that this is the best way. This is to some extent organized, though there are genuine reasons that they have their families and so on. That's another story. But we cannot say that the people they come and they see the dream, and it's very dangerous. Because if they see the dream, if they see the paradise, paradise is nowhere. Nowhere is the paradise. So their disappointment will be dangerous, and you were speaking about it. Their disappointment will be very dangerous. And what we have to do also is not only give money, help root causes, fight with the instability is very important. It's very important. Fight the poverty, yes, but also somehow fight in psychological way. Fight in information war is here, and we are doing nothing also here on this respect. We should do something. And it is very difficult because people do not believe to anybody and everybody. So it is very, very difficult, but we have to think of it. Psychology is very important. It was for Europeans the American dream of 19th century. And this is the same thing, a European dream of the whole world. This is both for the people who are forced migrants and the welfare migrants, or I can say, or economy migrants who want to work.
So good reputation about Europe and its soft power now brings us problems. Maybe you should spread out the news that Europe is no more so happy.
Definitely, thank you. Definitely, Europe is not so much happy at the moment. I do agree that this psychological dream is a very important issue, and people just listen and want to repeat this dream. However, we should remember that migration, to some extent, is kind of self-sustaining process, and it's not only the dream, cultural, psychological dream, but also network. Some of members of the families are already here. We know this story from Polish migration, irrespective what television may say or media, or some Polish people know since cousin is already there and he earns a lot of money, that I will be able to earn a lot of money there as well. So the network is also very important. But to sum up, education of people and information, proper information concerning Europe, in Middle East, and in North Africa, kind of acknowledgement that we have problems on our labor markets, and we also should understand, and Western European societies, politicians as well, should understand. I think that to some extent paradigm of migration changed, and it is not treated as a solution for labor shortages and demographic shortages by politicians in Western European countries. However, it started in Middle East, and information, education of our societies and societies there should help.
Thank you very much. We started slightly late and we finished slightly late, that's why. But I think complex issues don't let us find any easy solutions, and especially in 1 hour we will not be able to conclude. But I think one thing I would keep in mind definitely, that to find a good solution whatever problem it is, we have to really try to discuss as much as we can all together. We are 28 member states, and if it's our common issue, common problem, common challenge, we should find the way to want to join this common effort. If not, it will bring us more discrepancies and problems within Europe itself.
And
last word.
Last word. Sometimes it is better to have other enemy, because it may build us stronger. So maybe the other enemy will build us stronger
Surprisingly,
Europeans.
we finished with a good note. I'm very happy because I was very, very sad hearing some of your comments. We don't have any more time, but we will have time during the break. So please join the speakers. Thank you very much, the speakers. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope they will not run away. Those who wanted to ask questions, please do it now.